There's a great article in BuzzFeed by McKay Coppins. Now, he's most known for getting his prediction about Donald Trump dead wrong when he said that there's no way that he's going to run for president. But what's fascinating is he said that after spending a few days with him and basically seeing how big of a joke he is up close and personal. Well, now he's out with a new article, and because he has connections to some close confidants and former top officials of the Trump campaign, boy, does this piece have some incredible detail about his campaign. So first of all, he paints an incredibly convincing picture of Donald Trump's life basically being a reaction to constant rejection. And it's this insecurity that feeds his need for the spotlight. And I'm not saying this necessarily as a put down, because I think to some extent, we've all felt that at one point in our life or another point in our life, whether you're in middle school or you're in high school or whatever the case is, and you want to be a cool kid and, you know, you're ostracized, you're not part of that community. And so it's almost like you morph into this little monster who tries to do whatever you can in order to get that recognition that you so yearn for. But I think the difference is when it comes to Donald Trump, most of us grow out of that. Most of us, realize like, oh, what a ridiculous dynamic going on here. Like what? I want to be cool with these people. Why? And then what? Well, Donald Trump, he always wanted to be recognized as like this big shot, the top of the elites. And like one of the stories, for example, that they bring up in the article is when he was at the Wharton School of Business, and I guess everybody in the class had to say what they want to do with their life. And he stood up and said something like, I want to be the king of New York real estate. And then everybody in the class started laughing at him. That had an effect on him. Because he's like seething. I'll show them. They also explain how obviously much later on, in fact, as recently as I think 2011, when he was at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, he got invited there. He thought he was invited as like, oh, it's Donald Trump. He's famous. He's part of this, part of the media and political landscape. And Obama proceeded to rip him a new asshole. Like a lot of the speech was about Trump because Trump was in the spotlight for being a birther. And they seated Trump on purpose in the middle of the room so that everybody can look at him. And if you remember, he had a fucking stone cold face on as Obama lampooned him, and then Seth Meyers did the same. So everybody's laughing, everybody's having fun at his expense. And they describe in the article, he thought he's showing up as some sort of king. In reality, everybody in the room looked at him as the court jester. Now, after the White House Correspondents' Dinner, apparently him and Melania beelined for the exit and ran right out the door. So this is a guy, he doesn't have that thing that humanizes him where, you can laugh at yourself, okay, I'm a little goofy in this way and that way. No, it's like he's just missing that. And he's this deep, insecure hole. And that really helps set the table for what ended up happening in the future here. Now, Donald Trump was teasing a run for a very, very, very long time. For over 2 decades. And it was when it finally ran out that he got press over it that he felt like, I got to show them. I got to do it. And there's also this other part in the article where they talk about how his dad, who was a big-time real estate guy in Queens, he told Donald when he was young, Don, you never go to Manhattan. You don't go to Manhattan. Manhattan's for the big shots. We stay here in Queens and we make good money here in Queens. And then in Donald's head, he's like, now I got to go to Manhattan. So you're beginning to see the picture painted here that every step of the way, it's like, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do this. And he's that kind of guy who's like, just by virtue of the fact that you said that, he's like, I'll show you. And then he goes after it. Now, in some respects, that's a positive trait. Now, maybe it's not really all that positive a trait when you're not qualified to be president, but your thing is, now I'm going to try to be president of the United States. So now, let me stop talking, and let me go directly to what the article says on this, because there's a really, really important part in the article that explains so much about the Trump campaign. So we have this story from the article. They explain here. They deliberated over the timeline of Trump's announcement that he's running. Stone and Nunberg, these are two of his top aides, became enthralled with the idea of Trump launching his bid with a surprise announcement on the last day of the filing deadline. They envisioned his helicopter descending cinematically into New Hampshire one afternoon in late October and sending a shockwave through the Republican field. But Trump scrapped the stunt in favor of a June announcement, which would allow him to saturate the typically newsless summer of media landscape and still give him time to pull out of the race and re-up his Celebrity Apprentice contract in the fall. Quote, "You have to understand, we didn't think we were going to win," Nunberg told me. "It was such a shot in the dark. Who knew?" They really had no idea. They had no idea. None. They didn't expect to win. Honestly, if you told them from the beginning, you're going to end up winning this thing, they probably would have laughed at you. And look at how it unfolded. That's amazing to think about. Because, I mean, Jeb Bush, for all his flaws, you think he didn't go into it thinking he was going to win or that he could win? Well, the whole point of him running was, I want to be president. Marco Rubio, same thing. And I think those guys are comical figures. But Donald Trump gets into it, and this is a top official. He said, you have to understand, we didn't think we were going to win. It was such a shot in the dark. Who knew? They had no idea. And this is the exact same thing that other Trump campaign officials said after they had left the campaign, like halfway through. They're like, you don't understand, man. This is a dumpster fire. They had no clue. They don't know what they're doing. They just kind of stumbled into it, and look at where they got. What a scary thought that is. All right, so they continue here. Trump was starting out with a tiny political team composed mostly of misfits and mini-Trumps, Stone, Cohen, Nunberg, and the newly hired Corey Lewandowski. But he wanted his campaign operation to be so impressive looking that no one could doubt his seriousness. Again, there's the theme of everything so far again showing up. He wanted, I'll show you. One early top priority was to hire Spencer Zwick, the square-jawed fundraiser who had masterminded Mitt Romney's campaign finance operation in 2012. Zwick had been wooed, courted, and begged by every prospective candidate in the 2016 field, and he had politely turned down every offer. But Trump was confident he could change his mind. Over the course of 2014 and 2015, he periodically invited Zwick to meet at his 26th floor office in Trump Tower. The setting was decidedly un-Romneysian. According to people familiar with the meetings, leggy women in high heels tottered in and out of the room. In one meeting, Trump emphatically reminded Zwick of his vast fortune. Quote, "I'm really rich. You know that?" Trump said. "Yeah, I know that," Zwick replied. "The people who work for me are really rich too." "Okay." "I can make your business big overnight." Zwick, who co-founded a $700 million private equity firm, was not exactly dazzled. In the world of true-life titans of industry that Zwick ran in, Trump was generally viewed as little more than a TV personality, a performer playing the part of a boardroom chieftain, and not all that convincingly. What's more, Trump seemed to lack even a basic grasp of the political fundraising process, such as the difference between a super PAC and campaign. Wow, that's sad. For a while, Zwick, whose professional life relied on a policy of never burning bridges, found ways to escape from these Trump Tower meetings without flatly rejecting him. But eventually, one day, the master dealmaker went in for the close. Quote, "Can I count on you to come raise money for us?" Trump asked. Put on the spot, Zwick tried to ad-lib a way out. Quote, "I don't know why you're raising money at all," he tried, musing that in 2012 he'd always regretted how much time Romney had spent schmoozing with fat cat donors. Zwick proposed that Trump forget all about raising money for a while and come out really hard and strong with a pledge that he wouldn't waste any time on the campaign trail sucking up to donors. Trump was enthusiastic. That's a great idea! Trump's tirades against the donor puppets will become one of the most compelling elements of his primary campaign message, that of the blue-collar billionaire who couldn't be bought. More to the point, Zwick was off the hook. Nunberg later confessed to me that Trump's principled stand against the corrupt donor class was little more than lucky spin. Quote, the truth is, he would have raised money if he could have. Oh. Of course. Of course. As I read this article, I had that light bulb moment. The aha moment. The, oh, no shit. But when you really get the details of how it unfolded, you can see it perfectly. Trump is trying to be this big-time political player. He's trying to be the ultimate Republican establishment insider. He meets with Mitt Romney's top fundraiser, the bundler who talks to all the rich people and raises money. This guy's the number one guy in Republican fundraising. The guy thinks Trump is an utter clown. But he does this thing. He doesn't want to burn bridges with anybody because you never know in the circles that they run in. Now, there's a big-time $700 million hedge fund guy. So what happens? Trump's like, can I get you to raise money for me? And the guy's like, yeah, How do I get out of this meeting? This guy's a fucking loser. I don't know why you're raising money at all, bro. Bro, what are you talking about? Just take a pledge that you'll not raise any money from fundraisers, from donors, and look at that. Now you're a billionaire of the people. Now you're against the corrupt system. And then the guy runs out the door. Trump's like, yes! Tremendous! Winning! We'll be winning with that idea. Believe me. Believe me. And then it worked. And then it fucking worked. Oh my God. Because you know what it is, man? I was going nuts over this last night. The system in the U.S. has become so corrupt, so immensely, gargantuanly, if that's a word, corrupt, that all it took was an entertaining person to come along and say, I'm against the corruption. And the whole system comes crumbling down. So even if we avoid a Trump presidency this time, there's going to be another Trump. Because the establishment, they're not going to address the concerns of the people and the root causes that led to the rise of somebody like Trump. They're not going to address the income inequality. They're not going to address how people feel like they're hopeless and they can't climb up the ladder of opportunity. They're not going to address that. So you open up the door for a populist demagogue to come in who obviously doesn't mean any of it, but people are so sick of the establishment that they're like, he said he's against the corruption. He said he's for us. He said he's against the corruption. He's not going to be a puppet to the donors. Trump's entire campaign happened as a result of a guy who wanted to get out of a meeting. And so he came up with a bullshit excuse. I can't raise money for you because you'd be better off if you say you're against the money? Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And it fucking worked. And it fucking worked. Guys, they spoke about how, in this article, right before he launched his campaign, people said they'd never seen Trump like that before in their entire lives. People who've known him for a long time. He was pacing back and forth. He wasn't sure if he's going to do it. He didn't want to get embarrassed because he felt like, well, eventually it's going to flame out. Eventually it's going to, come on now. It's going to flame out. I mean, when they launched the campaign, we covered the stories at the time. They paid an agency to send actors, and then they gave them Trump signs when they walked in the door. Trump started his speech by saying, wow, what a great event this is. Tremendous event this is. Thousands of people. Thousands. Reporters were in the room. They looked around. There weren't even hundreds of people, never mind thousands. Reporters said there were dozens of people. The guy's an utter buffoon. But he felt like he had to do it because he wasn't getting the spotlight anymore. That deep, dark hole in his soul that he's been trying to fill since he was a kid, trying to get recognized. He wanted to be recognized by the establishment, and then he stopped. Finally, the media was like, we're not falling for your shit anymore. Every election year, I'm going to run. Finally, people were like, fuck you. You're not running. You're a silly person. And it's because that attention ran out, and he so desires that attention. I'll show them. I'm going to run, and I'm going to have the best campaign ever. And then as a result of his constant and perpetual rejection from the people he wants recognition from the most, the establishment, he stumbled into the right strategy of, I don't take money. I'm not a puppet. No, you want to take the money, but people think you're an absolute joke of a human being, so they don't give you the money. The story of Donald Trump and the story of the U.S. political system at this point, it's like a movie. It's a real-world movie, and there are real-world consequences.